Good evening. It is 5 p.m. and welcome. This is a special meeting of the Kent School District Board, which is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. The purpose of this special meeting is a policy work session. We will begin with having a roll call of our board directors. Please indicate your presence by saying present. Director Gregory?
Present.
Director Song?
Present.
Director Clark?
Present.
Director Cook?
Present.
And I am present. Our policy work session, I will start with calling upon Superintendent Bella.
Thank you, President Margell and members of the board. I will go ahead and turn it right over to Ms. Hawley to begin our work session on policy.
Good evening, President Margell, members of the board, Superintendent Vella, and Ms. Curry. We have 10 policies on the agenda tonight. It's kind of ambitious, but some are quick, I think, so I think we'll get through it. I'll run through the PowerPoint really quickly as normal, so then we can pull up the red lines of the other policies. Always start off with classifications. Policy 2320, student travel, field trips, and excursions. This is the third reading. Policy 1750, retired member of the board. This did go to a reading for approval at the last board meeting, and you received other information on that of why this should be retired. Policy 6100, revenues from local, state, and federal sources, first reading. 6101, federal cash and financial management, first reading. Our current policy 6102, federal impact funds Indian, to be retired. New policy 6102, district fundraising activities. This is currently policy 6130. It's being switched over to 6102. Policy 6103, applications for competitive grants and foundation funding, to be retired. Policy 6131, charities. This is first reading. Policy 1620, board superintendent relationship. It's currently the superintendent's duties. Policy 1620, this is a fifth reading. And policy 1760, board member use of electronic communications, first reading. We had this on the agenda at the last work session, but we didn't get to it, so it is a first reading. Okay, let's start with policy 2320, student travel.
Ms. Hawley, before we go on, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I know when we started at least when I started going through these policies, we had a method we were doing certain ones first based off of their importance.
Yes.
And I believe that we got through all of, they start with an E. I can't remember what the word was. Essential, thank you.
And now they're called critical.
Okay, critical, thank
Yep.
you. Could you just go over again the order in which we choose and how we choose which policies we're reviewing?
Sure. So we didn't make it through all of the essential policies. And as the quarters go through with WASDA, they update quarterly the policies, and many of them are critical. So we try to bring those back right away. And then once I chose some that were 20 years old, because just for the mere fact they're so old. Then board members or staff will request certain policies to be amended. So there's really now at this point that we've gone through most of the essential, now called critical policies. There's no rhyme or reason other than importance or people asking for them to be brought forward. Does that help?
It does, thank you.
Okay, and again, if the board has policies they'd like to see brought forward, please ask so that we can get them on an agenda. And we do have the agenda fairly squared away for the entire year, but there's always room to add things in or make adjustments. Okay. So back to policy 2320, student travel, field trips, and excursions. At the last work session, the board had asked for other information as far as what other districts do with their insurance, if there has been any effect to their insurance, if they change the approval method. I reached out to several districts, and 2 responded to me that they had no changes to their insurance coverage, but more importantly, we had no insurance changes because of changes in approval. I talked with Propel Insurance, our agent, Kelly Hogan, and it was clarified that if we make the change to the approval method, there's no problem with our insurance being good. So that was the main thing the board wanted. I'll bring up a policy that President Margell did make an amendment on. If you give me just a second. So the blue is what President Margell had requested the changes to be made, and would like the board to take a look at it and see. I think the one thing is that part of bringing this forward is a change so that the board gets the information but doesn't have to approve, because sometimes we have quick turnaround. And I would suggest the board would be notified in advance whenever possible, but that's for the board to take up.
Because we don't have, so this was my two thoughts in doing this. Two things. One, I thought it was confusing about how we defined what out-of-state was. Sorry, to me, out-of-state means out-of-state. There's Washington State and there's out-of-state, so I struck that, and I thought that was confusing. What I also said is that, that we just needed to be notified in advance. How the notification happens could be through email, it could be through, however that's done. It doesn't have to be in a board meeting. There's no decision to be made, so because it's not, it's just notification. So as long, but it should happen in advance. And so that's why I would not put the clarification of whenever possible, because it is possible to let us know in advance.
Before, you mean, I want to clarify, you mean in advance of the trip? Okay. You don't mean in advance of the decision being made? You
There
mean-
is no, no,
Yeah.
yes.
Because there's no, okay. I wanted to clarify.
We're not making the decision.
Got it.
It's a operational decision, and, but, and then also not and then the other change was not convoluting what in-state and out-of-state meant. So simpler, easier to understand. That was my preference.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no, that's also what I echoed last time as well, is if we can get rid of the red tape and additional requirements, then why not? And thank you for following up with the insurance. Yeah, if there's no additional liabilities, I don't see why we need to keep the existing language or the old language.
And I'm okay with that change as well. And thank you again for following up with insurance. That's always, that red tape, we don't want to have that.
Yeah, yeah, so no comments.
Thank you.
We good to
Seeing no
move
further
forward?
discussion, I think we're good to move on to the next one.
Okay. The next one is policy 1750, and again, we're bringing this back to retire because after some lengthy conversations around this policy, it was determined that due to NPSL rules and ASB regulations, free lifetime passes cannot be given out. So I hope the board is understanding of that, that it just cannot be done legally.
Great, one less policy.
One less policy.
I just heard the superintendent's going to pay for all of us when we come and visit them.
That's fantastic. I'm in
We
there.
need that in writing.
We'll
Just
take that
joking.
in writing.
Perfect, okay. We're good to move on to the next one.
Okay? This is policy 6100, revenues from local, state, and federal sources. This policy is being brought back for review to highlight that the language included in this policy is also in policy 6102, federal impact funds Indian, which we're suggesting be retired tonight. I gave you a comparison document in your folder so you could see the language is almost verbatim. So there's really no reason to have 6102 when we get to that. But we wanted to bring this back, and also this is a critical policy. It has not been reviewed in 5 years. We did just add a procedure to it, so I wanted to make sure that time-wise we're in alignment with that. So there really were no changes to this.
I didn't have any questions in the review.
I'm okay.
Yeah, and Ms. Holly answered mine on the document.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no questions.
Good, we're good to move on.
Okay? Policy 6101, federal cash and financial management. This past February, we added a matching procedure, which KSD had not had up until this point. This is another critical one that hasn't been reviewed in 5 years, so that's the only reason it's coming back now. No changes other than a legal reference.
Okay. I'm so sorry. Going back to the last one, I did have just a clarification. I thought this was on 6101, but it was on 6100.
Sure. Give me a sec.
The only question I had is, it says the district can pay for the following with local revenues, and it's enumerated out which ones we can. Is that how the law is written, or is it written that, is it exclusionary? Like you can't pay for things with this, or is it written that these are the only things that you can? The reason I ask is because if we're making our policy enumerating just the ones that we can, but the law is written that it's only exclusionary, that you just can't pay these certain things, I would want to make sure that those matched. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear you.
So that's my only question. I don't have a problem with what these ones are. I just want to make sure that they match with the language of the law.
So are you talking just about the first one, about the enrichment of the state's program of basic ed, where it does talk about the district can pay for the following with local revenues?
Correct.
Okay.
So,
And I can take that question offline.
yeah, I was just going to say that.
I don't have any problem with that. If it matches, I'm good to move it forward. If it doesn't match, can we
Got it.
look at that?
We'll make sure that matches.
Sure.
Thank you.
Get it on one. Thank you.
I apologize for going backwards. There's a lot of 6100s.
Okay, we'll move on to 6102.
I think we're at 6101.
We're at
I'm
6101.
sorry, 6101. Okay, again, this is, the only change to this is the legal update.
Good.
We're good to move on.
Okay. This is our current policy that we talked about retiring and the reasons why. I think that was pretty clear that everything's contained in the other policy that's in this one. There's no need to have it.
Yeah, let's remove the redundancy.
Yeah.
In the 6102, we're retiring, right?
Yes.
The whole thing? Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. There's some interesting language in that one. So I'm glad that we're,
But I will say the language is almost identical in 6100.
did it actually have the language of recognizes dwindling state and federal funds?
Let me look. Let's
It
pull it
actually
up.
says that?
It was
Because I
written
looked
at
in
a
the
different
model
time.
policy and I didn't see that. I mean, I'm not disagreeing, but acknowledging that in policy seems odd.
Was it in 6100?
No, not that I
Well,
saw.
that's the one
Oh,
that,
6102.
6102.
It was in 6102. But that's
Right,
what
I was
we're
just
asking to be
checking
required.
6100 to see if it's, the language is in there.
Yeah, she's seeing if it, because remember, it's redundant in this other one.
In 6130?
No, 6100.
Yeah, because 6102 has the same information that's in 6100.
Yes.
And it doesn't contain the word dwindling in it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry. I just,
A lot of 61s.
So, Ms. Hawley, can you please just summarize and clarify, just for those that are watching, the conversation just took place, how you were looking language in 6100?
Sure.
To see if, yes, thank you.
Sure. Policy 6100 contains almost every bit of language that our current policy 6102 has in it. It does not contain the word dwindling in it. But other than that, most of the language is included in 6100. So that's why we want to retire 6102. It's having two policies with the exact same, other than a couple words, information in it.
Thank you.
Okay, are we good to retire the current 6102?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the new 6102, which is our current 6130,
And why are we choosing this number for it?
that's WASDA model policy number.
Okay.
And we're trying to bring them more in alignment because when they come to us with new policies and the numbers that are on them don't match what we have, then we have to create a new number that doesn't go anywhere in sequence with theirs. So we're trying to bring everything into alignment with WASDA's numbers.
Okay, and so in the model policy for 6102, which is the new 6102, it does have the word dwindling in there, by the way. I just think it's odd language.
So one thing a line that stands out in this policy is the district's ability to offer diverse, quality educational programs and experiences for Kent School District students depends in part on the district's ability to secure reliable alternative sources of funding, which is particularly relevant to us today given our financial situation with the state and the federal government. As mentioned specifically in this policy, it does not address fundraising programs conducted by parent-teacher organizations, other nonprofit or citizens organizations, or by ASBs. And I will mention this, in 2003, the state attorney general noted that school districts have relatively broad authority to undertake fundraising activities.
Should we replace dwindling?
No, it's just dumb language. It's not inaccurate language, it's just, it seems odd in the policy. To me, it feels like we're accepting it. And I hope in the advocacy part of our role that we continue to say, no, that's not okay.
Right.
Could we just say the district recognizes present challenges for funding? Or just take that line out altogether?
I guess what purpose does the existing line serve, aside from just a
Yeah.
acknowledgement? Because if it doesn't impact the policy in of itself, could we simplify the language?
I'm just wondering if it gives reason to have the policy. We're talking about fundraising activities, and it's kind of explaining why we need them.
It's providing clarity on why a district would be fundraising.
Right.
Versus going, why aren't they just getting fully funded?
Yep.
And so it's trying to acknowledge that, I think is what the policy, the way I read it was, it's trying to acknowledge that this is the validation of why we would be doing it.
Well, now I don't like the word dwindling either, so,
Because the primary responsibility of the state is to fully fund public
Exactly.
education.
Does the board as a whole?
could we just table this one? Because when I read it, because I put comments on most of the other stuff.
The rest of
but-
it, I'm fine with.
Yeah?
It's not,
Okay.
I guess I just have more of an issue with not funding public schools.
What about just taking that sentence out?
No, it's fine.
Okay, let's leave it then.
We do not need to
Okay.
focus on this.
I believe.
Okay, we'll move, are we ready to move on then?
Yes.
Yes.
So before we do, the discussion was had, which is a good one, I think. I heard amply fund education, it is a law. And then I also heard that it's an acknowledgement more than anything, and that the clarification piece was discussed. So now you can go ahead and move forward.
Okay.
Oh, and I'm sorry, one question, and it's like the one thing that's not changed in here is under second paragraph, first parenthesis, promote K-12 education. Is it pre-K-12? Because we also provide services for pre-K.
However, Mr. Parangov, it is K-12 that they fund, state funding. Pre-K is not in their,
Yes, that is correct. It's K-12.
We do not receive any funding for any type of student that is before kindergarten,
We receive federal funding
federal only.
or funding for students who qualify for birth to 3 services, special education, things like that.
That was my understanding. And so since we're above talking about state, federal, local, and non-governmental funds, it's a little thing, but our funding is important for pre-K too, for those students that qualify for those services.
Absolutely, and most of those are federal funding. We don't receive preschool funding from the state.
Well, I'll say it talks about fundraising activities where these programs are involved. So I guess the question is, would we fundraise for pre-K? Because I think that's what this line is talking about, the fundraising activities. So if we do fundraise for pre-K, it says to promote K through K-12 education. Would we do it promote pre-K through 12 education? It's about the fundraising activities.
I would put pre-K through 12.
Are there any examples of pre-K funding that we've contributed to?
So we do use Title I funding, which allows us to use for preschool, but it's very specific on transitioning students from, I would say, early kinder or a jump start type transitioning. But that's federally funded. We choose that, right? We do
Yeah.
not get the dollars to
Right.
run any program.
Superintendent,
That's from state.
for a fundraising, would it make sense, I think about an elementary school auction that might get books for the pre-K, or might get playground equipment that is used for the preschool students and maybe the kindergartners. Those would be funds that could be utilized by our pre-K students. Would you think that those
Yeah.
would be fundraising efforts?
And I would say that that's funding for the family, right? So an example I'll give is around preschool is really working with families on early child development, for example. What are some things we can do to help transition them into kindergarten, back to the allowable use of Title I funds?
Okay.
So
Yeah, I mean, I
fundraising
can see the addition of the language
support
opening
that.
up. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the fundraising can support that.
Okay. I mean, if it makes it more equitable in terms of increasing or expanding accessibility, yeah.
So is there consensus to change that to pre-K through 12?
Yeah, I like that idea. Add
Yes.
pre-K.
I like expanding it because then we don't get caught.
Director Cook, are you good with it?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah.
I feel like we're good
And my
to move on.
team is okay with that as well.
Okay. 6103, applications for competitive grants and foundation funding. A competitive grant is a type of funding that must be applied for and competes against other proposals. Because there are operational obligations involved, retiring this policy would support more streamlined workflows in grant applications. And just to be clear, competitive grants and foundation funds are not donations. They have to be applied for.
Right.
Good?
I'm good.
Sorry, my nonverbal cues.
Sorry.
I was non-verbaling.
We're good
and
to
I was
move
like,
forward.
oh, we're all non-verbaling. That does not help her.
Okay, policy 6131, charities. This policy has been updated to just take out United Way in there and change it so that other charitable campaigns are noted. That was the only change.
I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that one.
Yes.
Same.
We're good to move forward.
Policy 1620 is the board superintendent relationship. To begin with, I'll bring up Director Cook's noted changes that he wanted to see made. They're in blue, If everybody has a chance to take a look at that before I go to our red line version. Are you able to see that, or should I make it bigger?
Could you make it bigger for me,
Sure.
please?
We had a first reading of this in May of 2024, and this is our fifth reading. And Vice President Cook had originally asked that we just use the WASDA model policy and not include ours. There was an overlap in those two. And this is just strictly WASDA model without his changes. When I get back to the one that's the red line, I'll show you the WASDA model version, and that was Director Cook's suggestion. So has everyone had a chance to take a look at those suggested changes?
Is there, Vice President Cook, is there a reason why you said during a regular, this is my only question, the delegate in this manner during a regular meeting of the board? Do we need to know that?
So I just wanted to make sure that it was done in public, not just like letting us know like in passing or through an email or
Oh,
text
okay.
or something
I
like
got
that. I just wanted to make sure that there was a record of anything that was being done.
Got it.
I feel like that this is antithesis to everything that's up above it. That the superintendent is the executive officer of the board, secretary, is responsible for the administration of the schools under applicable laws and policies of the district, and that they have the right to delineate. And so I just feel like if we were Dixie, Washington with 31 students, and everything was going through the superintendent because they're also probably the principal and everything else, right? It's one thing, but when you have as large of a district, there's a lot of things that are delegated that have to be. And so by what our contract with our superintendent and what their role is I don't know how this would be actually possible, nor necessary. Like, he's still responsible for all of it. He delegates it, but he's still responsible. But to tell us in every single time that who gets to make the decision on what bus or what route or, that's,
But I don't think that's how, I mean, I could be wrong. Vice President Cook, please jump in if I'm incorrect. I'm reading it as, like, if there's going to be, he's responsible for everything, and he's going to be out of pocket for a week or whatever, right? And he's delegating these duties to this person or this person. He's clarifying who's going to make those decisions in his absence. Is that correct, Vice President Cook, or am I, or do you mean all duties?
My idea behind this wasn't so much like the everyday running of the district, which obviously most duties are going to be delegated on a day-to-day basis regardless. I don't expect, obviously, like the principals to be not delegated their authority to do the work that they're doing every day.
Right.
It's more anything that's beyond what the norm is, right? So like, and I think that's what this is talking about, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'm understanding what the purpose of this is. Is that correct? I mean, if anyone can explain better.
Yeah, I'll just share that back to, I think it was President Margell mentioned, what's above is broad policy, is broad language that states that there are delegation pieces the superintendent already has. In fact, the board's own policies, many of them already say that.
Right.
And so that's why you have broad language in there, that's what it's referring to. But I think your question, Vice President Cook, is more around, hey, am I reading this wrong, that section where it's general?
Right.
We certainly could ask Mr. Leonard to kind of weigh in on the board policy responsibilities and superintendent's procedure responsibilities as it relates to delegation, because I think that's the question.
Right.
Yeah, good evening. To that question, my advice would be, if we were to have a policy like this, I would want to know any unintended consequences as a result of this. And if you're going to adopt a policy, I would expect the superintendent and staff to follow it. Meaning, and looking at the plain language of this, it implies that any time the superintendent delegates, it would need to be almost by information to the board. And that delegation probably happens on a daily basis. Policy talks about superintendent or designee in many instances where there's some sort of delegation of authority from superintendent to others. And my worry is capturing all that and articulating that in a clear way might be, I would just want to make sure we're very deliberate about that. I don't know, Vice President Cook, if that was your intent, but I can think of many instances in which it's superintendent or designee acting, and that could happen on a daily basis.
Well, and even just my reading of it, I mean, I can't be the only person that would have read it this way, that's any designee. And that seems to muddy the, what are we considering everyday operations? What is, and then I also think about, to your point, we would want to follow it. If something was to ever happen to a superintendent and that they had to not be here, it's already outlined who does what. We have designated through all the rest of our policies. I couldn't imagine that we could have no decisions happening in the district until a regular board meeting where, heaven forbid, something ever happened to a superintendent and that they couldn't make it, like we're in the hospital or something, right? Right, that they didn't say in a board meeting that was going to happen, then no policies or nothing could happen in the district, and that's what it feels like that this sets up a situation for.
Oh, I see. I interpreted it differently. I interpreted it as like a known, how I read this change was a known, like the duties happened all day long, right? And that's given and that's their oversight and they can do the work. I read this as like a known event is going to happen. Superintendent Vella's out, he's going to be traveling.
Just like make sure, let's keep this because it's policy, if that will go in perpetuity with or
Yeah.
without Superintendent
Well,
Vella. So the
Yeah,
superintendent.
so a superintendent is on, they're going to be out for a period of time. Maybe they go on a leave of absence. Maybe it's an event that they have to go to, et cetera. And then we would just make it known ahead of time, hey, this person's going to be out. But
think we
I
have a
could be
policy
wrong. I'm
already
reading
for
it
that.
wrong.
What?
Don't we already have a policy for that? Or isn't that captured somewhere else? Mr. Leonard, are you familiar? Because that language is very scattered throughout multiple policies.
It is.
about Designee.
Yeah, I would go up to the sentence in the middle that says, unless unlimited, the superintendent may delegate to other staff members the exercise of any power imposed by district policy. So that's inherent, meaning if the policy allows for delegation, and you can look and say, the policy about complaints by an employee for a discrimination. It requires a response by the superintendent or designee within 30 days.
Right.
So in that sense, the superintendent has delegated by district policy. A policy has been adopted by the board. It says superintendent or designee. That would not require any additional action to allow a designee to respond on behalf of the superintendent for that board policy. What the additional line might do, though, is require that in addition to that board policy, taking action in the affirmative to actually let the board know that we are delegating and having a designee operate in that capacity and not coming from the superintendent. My concern would be if that puts an extra obligation, because that's not that the superintendent's out of town, it's that the superintendent typically doesn't provide that response. It usually does come from a designee. And there are many policies. If you just search in-board policy for designee, you're likely going to come up with hundreds of policies.
I think we just looked at several tonight.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, because that's the interpretation I had reading that last line too. Is I think it's too broad, in that like one example is if the superintendent was talking to a principal and was like, "You choose the color of the banner for homecoming." It's just something random. Does that mean he technically delegated? Does that mean because of that we have to be notified? And so I think it opens it up to too much micromanagement and too much additional duties that I don't think it's possible if we looked at the amount of things that the superintendent does delegate, from the most basic decisions to the more complex ones.
And that's the way I interpreted it.
Okay. All right.
And I also wanted to, I think it was Director Gregory that brought up, I'll use myself as an example. When I was out for back surgery, I always communicate with the board.
Right.
Doesn't mean that decisions still aren't being made and delegation is still happening as if I were here.
Right.
But I always let you know.
Yeah, and I thought I put a comment on this one too, so I apologize. This is the section where I was unsure if it'd be the most relevant place, but from our last discussion at our last board meeting about if the superintendent were to make a decision on behalf of the school district that might be controversial or that might be deviating from a higher office of authority, that the board be notified ahead of time. I guess, Ms. Polly, would this be the place to include that when it comes to the relationships?
I think that would be a broader discussion. I'm not sure that would actually go in this policy.
Yeah, I don't believe so. I think there are other policies that were referenced in the other meeting.
Right.
This is a different one. This is
I think it was a 1,000
Yeah.
series.
It was, okay,
the actual duties of the superintendent.
okay. Yeah, so my opinion about this one is I think we should strike that first sentence
Okay.
that Director Cook
Is everybody
advised.
that's reading this wanting to move on? Or is there more discussion on this first sentence, then we go on to the next paragraph?
I think removing it is fine. I don't have a problem with that. I think I misunderstood the way that this was supposed to be used as far as that goes.
Okay. And then on that second paragraph that we're looking at, once adopted, the policies enacted by the board for this purpose will be implemented via procedures established by the superintendent. At no time may the superintendent or designee implement procedures that would have the effect of discouraging candid conversations between any staff member and any member of the board. I don't believe this policy is addressing any of that.
I personally like the WASDA language better.
Let me pull the other one up so you can
we
see it.
Yeah, can we see that?
Sure. It's pretty concise.
I prefer WASDA's also.
Yeah.
So what's the argument for changing it at all? Because I don't think this was originally supposed to be just the WASDA's policy, or was that what we were doing?
I think that was the ask.
Yeah, I think that was your suggestion, to get rid of our current policy that was the board, the superintendent's duties. And we were going to merge the two, but you just wanted to go to the WASDA model policy.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, honestly. I don't think there's a huge reason for us to make any changes to it outside of that. My only concern is that the way that it states at the bottom there, that talking about establishing communication procedures which can enhance the board members' understanding of student programs and school operations. Just because this is specifically talking about how the board members are going to better understand things, I feel like that process should be run by the board, as far as like making sure that we agree that the procedures that are being changed should be changed in the way that they are being changed. Just because it's affecting the board members' understanding of what's going on in the district. If it weren't for that, if it was going to be a procedure change that was going to only impact employees within the district, I feel like that would be a different conversation. But because it's directly related to board members' understanding, that's where I guess I have a difficulty in.
My only addition to this was when we're citing the other policies and legal references, the first line on the last sentence is what puts me in a tough spot, because it says board members must be familiar with the operations within the schools. Thinking of like a new board member entering, how do we appropriately and effectively hold them to that standard if they haven't had an opportunity to become familiar.
I think our onboarding addresses that, and then we have other policies and our board protocol that address communications procedures as
See, I
well.
disagree. I feel like our onboarding didn't give, at least me, the enough familiarity within operations of itself to be able to make some of those informed decisions.
I hear you, because I read that too, and so I went back to look and see what the WASDA language was, and that is exactly what the WASDA language was, and so, and what made it comfortable for me to stick with the WASDA language on this one is familiar with, that's different than expert in, or,
Right.
And so familiar, we have a broad, and right, and we are continuing to learn because we
Yeah.
are learners.
Yeah.
And so that will be a constant process of learning more, but, and becoming more and more familiar with. And so I don't know if that changes it for you.
No,
but
no, I don't have a problem with the language existing in this policy. My question was more, is there an additional, like addendum or a policy that we could reference with this? Is there any policy that exists now that says that a board member will go through X amount of like trainings or observational
Oh, yeah.
periods to become familiar? That way we can cite it in addition to this.
Yeah, I think
I
Ms.
hear what you're
Holly
saying.
mentioned the onboarding policy.
Right.
Is where that would be, Director Song. And your point is well taken on it's the familiarity and how we do that onboarding and how deep it is. That's the procedure part that
Yeah.
I would implement with my team to better do what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, because the last week, or was it this week? Last week.
Last week.
When did we go out? Last week?
Last
Yeah.
week.
Last week.
Last week.
When I got to see just the operations of the kitchen, like,
Yeah.
that wasn't a part of the onboarding.
Right.
And we've made so many decisions that impact
Yeah.
their logistics.
No, I appreciate that, and like I mentioned, it is back to the onboarding piece. It's so critical to be able to see, hear, understand, and I think we just keep getting better. So back to that policy of onboarding, that's what I will take from this conversation is that, and I think I heard you say to cross-reference it as well.
Yeah.
We could do.
And we do, I believe. Is that right, Ms. Holly?
We can put it, we can cross-reference in here. It's not here right now, but we can certainly
we could do that.
cross-reference.
Yeah.
Okay, I
And
would-
then
would be that
straight
like
back.
1310, which is policy review adoption manuals and administrative procedures?
Yeah, just because
Yeah.
I
There you
think
go.
they go hand in hand and there's
Yep.
relevance there.
Nope, that
I
makes
would
sense.
agree.
I'm sorry that I misunderstood you at the
would agree.
onset.
Sure, no problem. So those cross-references will be in the next version that you see that comes for discussion and approval.
Okay,
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
sounds
great.
good.
Ready to move on?
What were everyone's ideas on the procedures part of it? The second sentence there.
On your version or the WASDA version?
On the WASDA version, just as far as because it doesn't specifically state, because normally procedures are not approved by the board. So any procedure that was changed would just be changed without approval. And also, I guess the second question I have on that, if we were to change procedures, or if the superintendent were to change procedures, would those come up to the board when they are changed, like as the informational at the very least?
We typically, Ms. Hollywood can clarify, however, the procedure needs to be aligned with the policy first. So when the board does make edits or changes or puts a new policy, my team would still align the procedure. We put them, I believe, in information.
Always an
In
informational.
information, to answer your question, Vice President Cook, always, so that not only the board, but our community can see that it's now been, when the board takes action on that policy, there's also been an alignment of the procedure to align with the policy.
We absolutely, every time we make a change to a procedure, note it in the informational section that goes to the board at a regular board meeting.
So I guess my only real change to that would be that I would like the board to approve any procedure changes that would happen with this particular purpose. So like if the superintendent were to be changing the communication procedures, whichever they might be, that are affecting the board, so they're going to affect the board's knowledge, then that should be approved by the board, not just changed and then provided to the board as far as informational, because we might miss it at that point.
It's always on the agenda, but the board approves policy but not procedure.
Yes, I understand that. I would like it to be something not necessarily approved, but that anything that is going to be changed regarding communication with the board, or changed as far as anything that's going to affect the board in any sort of way, should be reviewed by the board before it is put in place. The rest of them, like, we don't go in and review the informational stuff. So we don't go in and review what changes. Typically, we don't review what changes are going to be happening for procedures during our board meetings. That typically happens at the end, and if one of us decides to discuss it, then we do. But I could see something getting missed by just having it there. So if it's I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I would like to add something in there that would say that if the changes are going to affect the communication to the board, that we would want to know that explicitly, so it wouldn't be allowed to be put into that informational. At the very least, it would be discussed beforehand.
I just want to point out that the agenda goes live Friday night, and the informational changes are always posted with the red line version on that agenda, so the board has it at least 5 days in advance.
Yes, I agree they do. It's just I know there can be times when we are handling, say 15 different policies that need to be changed, just based on, our list of policies is enormous. And so there are times when we have a lot of things on our plate and we are focused on what policies we are changing, because that's the stuff that we focus on and that's the work that we do. But if this type of change were to happen, I would want to know that, the superintendent is changing the way that we're communicating, and he's going to be changing or he or she is going to be changing the way that we get information. That seems like it would rise to the level that the board should be made aware in more explicit detail than it's just something that's being changed in the background, so to say, because I know we have access to it and we should be reading all of them. But if we have, 15 different policies that we need to be reviewing and discussing during that meeting, I don't know that we will always be able to get to that. And there might be times that a board member may not notice it. And because we don't actually read it during our regular meetings, they may not ever notice, and they wouldn't see it during that time, even though it was something that it was available to them. And this doesn't apply to any communication changes or any policy or procedure change. Well, policy is different, but any procedure changes that are impacting just staffing or just anything within the district or the running of the district. It would only apply to things that are going to impact the understanding of what's going on in the district of the board.
I'm comfortable with how our informational portions are now, and that if there was something that we really felt was egregious in the policy changes, that we could always revisit it. And I'm reluctant to pull out procedures pertaining to just one policy and without feeling the need. And I hear what could happen. I feel like the policy is I feel like it addresses what I need and am able to see and comment on, and we have the ability to change it. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I concur. We always have the opportunity as a board to stop and look at it.
Yeah, and I was just going to share that this kind of setting, that's why we have policy work sessions. So, and I know at work sessions, questions about procedure come up and you can't ask them. And so the other piece I will say is procedures are not to go outside of what the policy is stating and the board is putting in place for policy. We also have to make sure we're following the law. And so something egregious would not be a procedure that my team would be implementing. It it would be aligned with the policy and any laws that are cross-referenced in the policies. So, yeah, I just wanted to add that.
I understand that. My concern isn't about Superintendent Vela specifically. This is obviously Superintendent Vela handles this well, as far as I can tell. But when we write policy, we have to think of every possible situation that we might have going forward. We aren't going to base it on just who we have in front of us today. We need to be looking towards a situation where a board member maybe isn't able to pay that close of attention to something. And to me, it's a big enough deal if there are changes being made to how we are going to get information provided to us, because that's what this is saying. It's saying the superintendent will establish communication procedures which can enhance the board members' understanding of student programs and school operations. That's very broad. That opens up to interpretation by the superintendent, any and everything that goes on with how they are going to communicate to us. And there can be all kinds of justifications for, oh, well, I wanted to change it because I thought it would be better that you had that information to you in this other form, that now they don't know that other form even exists necessarily. And because we don't have an exact explicit way of saying, no, you need to tell us when you're going to change those things. That to me seems like it's not a big ask, because you're not talking about the superintendent's changes to anything but what's happening with the board. And that's where I have difficulties, because anytime we're changing things on what's happening with the board should know, at least in my opinion.
It would just be the professionalism of the office to do it, the way that, works for board members and the superintendent. Nobody's going to be doing anything nefarious.
Is there?
Well, I mean, that is expected, but there's no way to say that in the future we may have. I mean, if you look at what's happened, there's a superintendent recently that was, arrested because he lied about everything that he said when he applied for the job. And did the board know about that? Obviously not. But to say that there's no possibility that there's a nefarious acting superintendent, obviously we'd know that it can happen. It happened in this very state. So I don't like the idea of information being, or any sort of procedure being changed without the board being aware when it comes to information being provided to the board. That's where my line is. I'm not suggesting that we get, a rundown of every single procedure that ever comes before us. But when a procedure is being changed that's going to impact how the board receives information, I feel like we should have that information provided to us in a little bit more explicit way, even if we're not approving it, so to say.
I guess I just don't understand how that is done through this board, is by putting it on a 5-day notice in the board documents that's provided to us and provided to our community to be able to look at. And as part of your duty, I mean, you have the right as a board director not to look and to be unaware, but it's provided to you for you to be able to do that, and that's the expectation. So I guess making a policy around the expectation that a board director is not going to follow the duties of their job, to me seems, that's not how we would make policy. Again, I'm fine with the WASDA language.
Yeah,
So
I hear what Director Cook is
let
saying.
me ask a question on that then. What is the argument for why adding that would be a problem? So how much of an impact is that going to have? Is that how many times has the superintendent changed procedure regarding communication to the board in the past, say, few years?
I think only once, one that I recall, where a superintendent said that he's going to start putting more of the details in his weekly reports. I hear where Director Cook's coming from. I agree that the language could use some differences. The only thing that I'm caught on is, and I'd like to hear from you guys too, is it says procedures which can enhance. And so then I'm thinking, do we have a baseline understanding of what the bare minimum is or the expectation for just any kind of communication? So when I read this now, I'm viewing it from the lens of if there's going to be any procedural changes, it can only be changes that's going to improve or make better of. Do we have any language or anything in here that says what the standard communication is going to look like?
Wouldn't that be in procedures?
Just
Yeah.
procedures
Is there a procedure
Okay.
on what is the,
or a policy? of
or a
what that looks
policy
like?
procedure on, that was going to be my question, was what is the procedure currently attached to this policy?
I don't
that
think we
says-
have one, but we
don't have
will
one.
have a WASDA
not.
model one moving forward.
Okay.
Okay,
A WASA model procedure accompanies,
accompanies
well
this one.
accompany.
Okay,
And again, I think Vice President Cook mentioned, we still have to make sure that it's aligned with board policies that
Right.
we just talked about. That's why we cross-reference the onboarding one, and that it's aligned with state law. And sometimes districts have specific policies that may be different or that WASA doesn't have.
right.
And that's why you still have to make sure you're aligned with the policy and following state law.
Yeah, and Director Cook, as I'm rereading this with just additional context from hearing everybody else in the room, what is your comfort level with now emphasizing the word enhance? Because some of the things that you brought up were like, well, what if he changes procedures that inhibit or limit or restrict some communication? But this policy, the way it's written, says he can only make changes to enhance it. And so
Right.
if he were to put in procedures that would diminish the communication, then technically he'd be working against the policy. And I think that gives us some teeth there to call that out.
Right.
I understand that, I guess, because when you're talking about something like the word enhance and you're saying that that he can only enhance things or he or she can only enhance things, it still is rather vague, because to say that it improves it, right? Because that's what enhance is talking about. If you were to say that, well, we're going to streamline it, isn't that enhancing it? Well, it's streamlining may mean that you provide less information because you're streamlining it now and you're creating and that may truly be the case. You know, providing less information may be a better idea in some cases. But so if you're doing that, to say that enhance does not mean necessarily that you're going to make it like truly better. It may be better in some ways, but worse in others. But you may decide that the betterment of those certain ways are enough that it's better for us to go that route than to go the other route. And if that's the case, that may make it very difficult for you to say, oh, well, our superintendent, she has done something different that has made it worse. And she may say, no, look, what I did is made it more streamlined. But now you have less information and it's still, yeah, it's streamlined and it's made better by that, but it's not actually better. Maybe if we were to change the word enhance to something like increase awareness or something where it requires a change that increases the amount of information and does not decrease the information. Does that make sense?
Director Cook?
Yes.
Would it be acceptable, what about, I'm thinking about another way that we could do this. Could we encourage when they're writing the procedures that accompany this, that we encourage language around multiple ways of if, you know, significant changes are happening to the, I'm spitballing language here, to the process of communicating to the board in an ongoing fashion, that the board will be made aware both in updates to the procedure through board policy and then also through additional board-only communication. So it gives it like there's an email to us and it's on the board like there's multiple ways that somebody would see it.
Yeah. I think that I would have the board consider that the current weekly and other forms of communication that we do have, that is enhancing and improving the, or opportunity for a board member's understanding. back to the enhancing and improving their understanding. That allows the superintendent multiple ways to do that. And we just talked about the onboarding, which does specifically speak to certain things that's where it can be improved.
And I think the whole sentence needs to be read. It's the superintendent will establish communication procedures which can enhance the board members' understanding of student programs and school operations. It's not just about communication in general to the board.
Right.
It's that last part, enhance the understanding of student programs and school operations.
Correct.
I am
Yeah.
so sorry. We
I
are
guess
having
my
a
one thing
robust.
for that is that going with his example with Superintendent Fella's example that he just provided. Let's say a superintendent decided that he or she is going to increase the number of communication channels to the board by a factor of 100. And so now we have 100 things coming to us. And yes, there's more information. That's an increase of whatever. And all that information is now given to us, but we now have 100 different ways that we have to go and look at it, right? So this is what I'm talking about is when you make it vague and you say that they can just enhance it, you're not saying that it needs to be run by the board, that they have to approve it or they have to even know that that change is being made. But if the superintendent were to say, make a change that enhances it, and we're going to now have, 100 is obviously a bit much, but let's say there were 7 different things. We get a lot of emails, and if that were to be the case, we may miss things because of a change that was made with the intention, hopefully, of increasing communication to the board, but may end up obfuscating things that they are trying to make happen.
Thank you for this robust conversation and that last comment, Director Cook. Unfortunately, it is 6:01, and we do have to adjourn because of time. So currently, it is 6:01. The work session is adjourned for an executive session for 30 minutes. The purpose of this executive session is to discuss the performance of a public employee, potential litigation, and the legal or financial risks of a course of action. We will see you all back here at 6:30 for our regular meeting. Good evening. It is now 6:30, and our executive session adjourned at 6:27 PM. Board members in attendance for the executive session were all 5 of us, with Director Cook attending virtually. We now move to our 6:30 regular meeting, and we are calling this meeting to order. We will start with a roll call for attendance. Please indicate your presence by saying present. Director Gregory?
Present.
Director Song?
Present.
Director Clark?
Present.
Vice President Cook? Vice President Cook is absent, and I am present. Director Gregory, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome. This is a meeting of the Kent School District Board, which is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. We welcome the public's participation in this board meeting and thank those of you who have come to this meeting and those who are viewing via our live stream. The purpose of the board meeting is for the board to conduct its business in public. During the meeting, the board will listen to but not respond to comments from visitors. Whether made verbally in person, verbally on video, or written, comments are limited to a total of 1 per person per regular board meeting. 1 additional comment per person may be submitted for a public hearing topic if there is a public hearing on the agenda. All forms of public comment are subject to Chapter 4256 RCW Public Records Act. The public may comment at regular board meetings in a manner authorized by state law. All comments must adhere to Policy 1420 and Procedure 1420P. If you wish to make a comment to the board, comment forms are available for completion prior to the meeting and must be turned in no later than the beginning of the legislative report. No forms will be accepted once this report has begun. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Public comments will be heard after the agenda review. Students will be first to speak on any topic during the student voice portion of the agenda, which takes place immediately following this opening. General public comments from non-students will be heard during preliminary communication from the audience. Any remaining comments, whether from students or non-students, will be heard at specific agenda items and during the final communication from the audience. Student comments will be heard first on any topic. Please state your first and last name prior to beginning your testimony. Abusive public comments personally directed towards the board, staff, or students will not be tolerated. The use of specific names or personally identifiable information of board, staff, or students is not allowed. Board members or KSD staff members may interrupt or terminate an individual statement when not adhering to Procedure 1420P. All comments, whether verbal or written, must adhere to the standards of civility as defined in the Policy 1400 Meeting Conduct, Order of Business, and Quorum. If you're seated in overflow room, there is a brief delay in the live stream audio. We will allow extra time for you to make your way to the boardroom after your name is called. Individuals with items for the board or superintendent must provide the items directly to safety services staff. Approaching the dais during the board meeting is not allowed. Any items turned in will be provided to the board and superintendent following the meeting. We now move to item 1.06, our land acknowledgement. Director Song, will you please read our land acknowledgement?
We acknowledge we are gathered upon the ancestral lands of the Muckleshoot Indian tribe, who historically lived throughout the area between the Cascade Mountains and the Puget Sound.
Thank you very much. Our next section is the agenda review. Superintendent Vela, are there any changes to the agenda?
President Margell, there are no changes to the agenda.
Is there a motion from the floor?
Actually, Madam Chair, I need to add an item to the agenda. I would like to line out legislative update under 7 and relabel that legislative positions for WASDA because it will require a vote as opposed to a report.
Just leave that date. Could we add that as item 7.02 for your motion?
That'd be great. And I move that change to the agenda.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded for adding WASDA legislative priorities
That's fine.
to be added to as item 7.02. We are now open for discussion.
This is my fault. It was a miscommunication between Naomi Watts, who schedules the agendas, and the need to get further legal advice. And it's my fault, but hopefully it'll take very little time to correct.
Any further discussion? Seeing as there is none, there's a motion on the floor to,
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
first we need to vote on adding the agenda item, and then we can move to the motion of an agenda as a whole. So right now, there's an open motion on the floor for adding agenda item 7.02, WASDA legislative priorities. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion on the floor?
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded for approving the agenda as amended. We are now open for discussion. Seeing as there is none, there's a motion on the floor for approving the agenda as amended. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. We move on to our student voice section.
President Margell, there are no in-person student comments, online video, or written comments at this time.
Thank you. I'd also like to take a moment that, please mark the meeting notes as Vice President Cook is present. We now move to the preliminary communication from the audience.
Thank you, President Margell. We do have 3 in-person general comments. I'll also hand them over to you.
Thank you. Is there any specific comments or online?
0 specific, 0 online, and 0 online written.
Thank you very much. Our first person, Debbie Mitchell.
Would I be able to go first? We're together. We're all together.
So maybe
Is there a preference in who goes first, Colette or Terrell?
Terrell.
Terrell.
Thank you.
Terrell Thorson.
Thank you. Good evening, board members and superintendent. My name is Terrell Thorson, and I'm a multilingual teacher. I'm proud to serve as a teacher of color at Mill Creek Middle School. I'm a Native American, and I hold a card with the Cherokee tribe. I stand before you not only for myself, but for many colleagues who, like me, do not have a dedicated classroom space. I travel between 5 different classrooms in my day. No classroom means no equity for students who look like me. Some numbers that highlight our reality at Mill Creek are we serve over 860 students this year. As of today, we have 50.2 who qualify for multilingual services, which is far above the district average of 28%. On state assessments, only 25% of our 7th graders met ELA standards, and just 13% met math standards. By comparison, district averages are 46% in ELA and 32% in math. More than 60% of our students are testing at least 3 grade levels below in reading and math on their iReady assessments. Constant transitions mean significant loss of instructional time. We estimate about 6 minutes per class, 3 at the beginning, 3 at the end. Add this up over 180 days, it's over 1,080 minutes and nearly 20 full days of instruction that are lost each year. These numbers tell a clear story. Our students experience significant barriers and need consistent focused instruction to close opportunity gaps. Without the dedicated classroom spaces, we can't provide the equity and attention that all our students, and especially the most vulnerable, deserve. I urge you to recognize these challenges and prioritize space and resources for our students. They deserve consistent instruction and support to help them succeed, and we believe that your leadership can make a big difference. No classroom means no equity, and no equity means no access or opportunity, and no real path forward for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrell. Our next speaker is Colette.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. My name is Colette Nicholas, and I am a teacher without a classroom. I am a Kent community member, and I'm a proud teacher at Mill Creek Middle School. I am a teacher of color. I am Mill Creek. No classroom means no equity for students who look like me. I am a Pacific Islander, and I identify with the Chamorro people. Without a classroom, equity is out of reach. Teaching without a permanent space means losing valuable instructional time every period because of doing tasks like time spent moving, setting up, and adjusting between each period. Students lose their routines, and we lose critical moments for individual support, especially for multilingual learners who depend on visual cues and structured environments. This school year, 18 classrooms are in use every period, all 6 periods a day. This shuffles teachers during their planning times, causing lost planning opportunities. As such, this is affecting not just us traveling teachers, but the majority of our teachers. At a school where fewer than 1 in 4 students meet reading standards, every lost minute matters. Traveling teachers cannot build the stability and sense of belonging that our kids need. This isn't just a space issue. This is an equity issue. Thank you for listening and for standing with me and our students. Together, we can make sure every teacher has a classroom and every student has the equity and stability they deserve. I am a teacher of color. I am Mill Creek. No classroom means no equity for students who look like me. Let us commit to change that. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much. Our last speaker, Debbie Mitchell.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. I'm Debbie Mitchell. I am a new 6th grade math teacher at Mill Creek Middle School without a classroom. I am traveling every class period for 5 classes. I am a teacher of color. I am Mill Creek, and no classroom means no equity for students who look like me. I am here to talk about the solutions. I am Korean and Native American. I am enrolled in the Warm Springs tribe in Central Oregon. My Indian name is Washanika, which means swan moves around. My uncle wanted a name that represents my love of moving and taking care of others. I come from foster care, where I spent 14 years moving from place to place on Warm Springs and Yakima Indian reservations. Like many of our students who experience frequent moves and come from programs like foster care, moving classrooms 5 periods a day without stability is unmanageable. As you heard, only 13% of our students are meeting the math standards. Our focus should be on supporting them with the best instruction and learning environment possible. Math at Mill Creek follows district requirements for building thinking classrooms, which need dedicated wall space and materials to foster critical thinking and deeper learning. Without a permanent classroom, I have no autonomy over my teaching space, making it impossible to provide the welcoming and stable environment our students deserve. Our principal has requested funds to renovate and create permanent classrooms. Research shows renovations are far more cost-effective than portable buildings. Delays in this process cause more lost instructional time and fewer opportunities for our students. We're not asking for special treatment, just the equity and tools necessary to provide a stable, quality learning environment like others already have. I am a teacher of color, I am Mill Creek, and no classroom means no equity for students who look like me. Thank you for your time and prioritizing equity for our students.
Thank you. Our next section is recognition, and we have 8 proclamations today. And we will start with America Safe Schools Week with Vice President Cook.
Sorry, just one moment. I'm pulling it up. Whereas schools make substantial contributions to the future of America and to the development of our nation's young people as knowledgeable, responsible, and productive citizens, and whereas the National School Safety Center, state governors, and state school superintendents sponsor America's Safe Schools Week the week of October 19th through 25th, 2025. And whereas excellence in education is dependent on safe, secure, and peaceful school settings, and whereas the safety and well-being of many students, teachers, and school staff are unnecessarily jeopardized by crime and violence, such as substance abuse, gangs, bullying, poor discipline, vandalism, and absenteeism in our schools. And whereas it is the responsibility of all citizens to enhance the learning experiences of young people by helping to ensure fair and effective discipline, promote good citizenship, and generally make schools safe and secure. And whereas all leaders, especially those in education, law enforcement, government, and business, should eagerly collaborate with each other and the National School Safety Center, a partnership of the U.S. Department of Justice and U.S. Department of Education, to focus public attention on school safety and identify, develop, and promote innovative answers to these critical issues. And whereas school safety programs in numerous schools and school districts throughout the country, along with national programs, are among those innovative answers. And whereas the observance of America's Safe Schools Week will substantially promote efforts to provide all our nation's schools with positive and safe learning climates. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Kent School District Board of Directors emphasizes the importance of making our schools safe, secure, and peaceful places for learning, teaching, and working, free of drugs, alcohol, weapons, and fear, and proclaims the week of October 19th through 25th, 2025, America's Safe Schools Week in the Kent School District. Signed this 8th day of October 2025.
Thank you very much, Vice President Cook. I am honored to read the National School Bus Safety Week. I chose this one personally just I have my father-in-law who got to serve as a school bus driver for Kent School District for many years, not just providing safe rides, but also a friendly smile for students. First thing and the last thing that they saw from Kent School District at the beginning and end of their day. And we just know that learning goes far beyond the classroom and are so incredibly thankful for our school bus drivers. I remember singing to them every single time we took a bus ride with our Chatelaines, would always sing to our bus drivers, thanking them for the safe ride that they would give us. So, whereas National School Bus Safety Week is an active and evolving public education program and is an excellent way for parents, students, teachers, motorists, school bus operators, school administrators, and community members to join together to address the importance of school bus safety. And whereas Kent School District buses meet or exceed federal and state regulations and received a 99% passing score on the annual inspection by the State Patrol. And whereas many students begin and end their day with a school bus ride, approximately 8,500 students are transported daily on 113 routes and 150 school buses traveling approximately 1,447,188 miles each year. And whereas this year's theme for National School Bus Safety Week is Safe Rides, Everyday Heroes, the board recognizes the high caliber of the transportation team and commends staff for their exemplary job of safely transporting students. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Kent School District Board of Directors emphasizes the importance of student safety and proclaims the week of October 20th through 24th, 2025, National School Bus Safety Week in the Kent School District. Signed this 8th day of October 2025 by the Board of Directors and Israel Vela, Secretary to the Board. Our next proclamation is National School Lunch Week by Director Gregory.
Whereas having access to and eating a nutritious lunch is an important part of a student's educational day and positively impacts their ability to learn, and whereas the Kent School District is an active participant in the National School Lunch Program, which is dedicated to the health and well-being of our nation's children, with a goal to provide nutritional, attractive, and currently free lunches to all students and other children 18 years of age and younger. And whereas the district staff of the Nutrition Services Department work together to provide a quality lunch program that offers healthy meals that include local and regional food products identified through an expanding farm-to-school program and actively supports the goals of the academic community. And whereas this year's theme, Taste the World, Your School Lunch Passport, which encourages students to explore different global cuisines and cultures through their school lunches, promoting both nutritional awareness and an appreciation for diversity. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Kent School District Board of Directors supports the work of the nutrition services staff, proudly proclaims the week of October 13th through the 17th, 2025 as National School Lunch Week in the Kent School District. Signed this day, the 8th of October, 2025, by the Secretary of the Board and the Board of Directors.
Thank you, Director Gregory. Could you continue for our Filipino American History Month?
Whereas Filipino Americans are one of the largest Asian American and Pacific Islander ethnic populations in Washington state and the second largest in the United States, and whereas Filipino Americans contribute to the enrichment and quality of life in our state and the nation, and whereas the earliest documented Filipino presence in the continental United States was October 18th, 1587, when the first Luzamis, and I'm probably pronounced that wrong, Indos arrived in Morro Bay, California, and whereas Filipino Americans History Month provides an opportunity to promote the study of Filipino American history and culture, recognizes the richness of Filipino American ethnicity, and honor the contribution of Filipino Americans, especially their service with distinction in the United States military. And whereas Washington's educational leaders are developing programs and resources to support stronger partnerships between families, schools, and communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Kent School District proclaims the month of October as Filipino American History Month, signed this 8th day of October 2025 by the Secretary of the Board and Board of Directors.
Thank you very much, Director Gregory. I'm also proud to be able to read our next proclamation, Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, LGBT History Month. Whereas LGBT History Month celebrates the achievements of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals, and whereas in 1994, a Missouri high school teacher gathered other teachers and community leaders and selected this month of October to be dedicated to the celebration and teaching of gay and lesbian history. And whereas just under a quarter of students are taught LGBT history in school, and only 4 states require its public schools to include LGBT history in the curriculum. And whereas LGBT History Month is recognized to remind both the LGBT and wider communities of the important roles LGBT individuals have played in creating the social, legal, and political worlds in which we live. And whereas the Kent School District Board believes in fostering an educational environment that is safe and free of discrimination for all students, regardless of sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Kent School District Board of Directors recognizes the month of October as LGBT History Month and encourages the discussion of LGBT history in school and classrooms during this time. Signed this 8th day of October, 2025, by Israel Vela, Secretary to the Board and the Board of Directors. Our next proclamation is National Bullying Prevention Month, and Vice President Cook, could you read that one for us?
Yes. Sorry, can you say again which one it was?
My apologies. National Bullying Prevention Month.
Whereas bullying, whether physical, verbal, social, or online, is a pervasive and damaging issue that affects individuals of all ages, especially children and adolescents. Whereas the consequences of bullying are far-reaching, contributing to increased risks of mental health challenges, including anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts, and impacting academic achievement, self-esteem, and overall well-being. Whereas, according to the National Center for Educational Statistics 2023, approximately 1 in 5 students aged 12 to 18 in the United States reported being bullied during the school year. Whereas studies have shown that students who experience bullying are more likely to miss school, with 15% of bullied students reporting that they stayed home from school to avoid being targeted. Whereas cyberbullying continues to rise, with over 37% of young people aged 12 to 17 reporting that they have been bullied online at some point, and 30% of that group reporting it happening more than once. Whereas LGBTQ+ youth are twice as likely to be bullied or harassed compared to their heterosexual peers, according to the Trevors Project's 2024 national survey. Whereas research confirms that preventive education, open communication, and supportive environments significantly reduce incidents of bullying and empower individuals to stand up for themselves and others. Whereas the Kent School District or Kent School Board has an active policy prohibiting harassment, intimidation, and bullying, encouraging positive behaviors, and eliminating bullying behaviors for all students, employees, parents, legal guardians, volunteers, and community members. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Kent School District recognizes the month of October 2025 as National Bullying Prevention Month in the Kent School District. Signed this 8th day of October 2025.
Thank you very much, Vice President Cook. Our next proclamation is being read by Director Clark, and it's National Physical Therapy Month.
And whereas the Kent School District is committed to supporting students with special needs and providing every student with equal access to education, regardless of physical needs, and whereas the American Physical Therapy Association recognizes how physical therapists and their assistants improve people's lives by restoring and improving their abilities and movement, and whereas the Kent School District encourages staff, students, and community members to help increase awareness of the benefits of physical therapy during the month of October, now therefore be it resolved, the Kent Board of Directors of the Kent School District proclaim the month of October as National Physical Therapy Month in the Kent School District and calls upon all citizens and civic organizations to join in the national effort to raise awareness of physical therapy and how therapists and their assistants improve students' access to education.
Thank you very much, Director Clark. And Director Song, could you read us our last proclamation?
Yeah, Kent School District Proclamation, National Principals Month. Whereas the National Association of Secondary School Principals and the National Association of Elementary School Principals have declared the month of October as National Principals Month. Whereas principals are educational visionaries, instructional and assessment leaders, disciplinarians, community builders, budget analysts, facilities managers, and administrators of legal and contractual obligations. Whereas principals work collaboratively with teachers and parents to develop and implement a clear mission, high curriculum standard, and performance goals. Whereas principals create school environments that facilitate great teaching and learning and continuous school improvement. Whereas the vision, actions, and dedication of principals provide the mobilizing force behind any school reform effort. Whereas the celebration of National Principals Month honors elementary school, middle school, and high school principals in ensuring that every child has access to a high-quality education. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Kent School District proclaim the month of October 2025 as National Principals Month, signed this 8th day of October 2025 by Superintendent Israel Vela and the Board of Directors.
Thank you so much, Director Song. That was a lot of proclamations, but all of them very important, so thank you for being part of those ones. And just a hand to, I think we have many of different groups represented here and listening tonight from these groups, so thank you very much. Our next section is 5.0, presentations, and we're starting with 5.01, TOP, our outreach program. Superintendent Vela, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, President Margill and members of the board. Excited to introduce to you first and introduce our team, Dr. Rebecca Kim, our Associate Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. Dr. Kim.
Thank you, President Margell, Board Directors, Superintendent Vela, and Ms. Curry. We are so excited to launch our monthly school presentations. Last year, as you may recall, we were doing these every other month, and we were sharing and celebrating the great work happening in our schools in KSD. This year, we will be doing these monthly. Our principal supervisors have worked on identifying schools that we wanted to spotlight, but of course, we want to spotlight all 44 of our schools and academies, but we only have so many meetings. In these presentations, you will always hear a high-level overview of the school, kind of who they are, some high-level metrics, And then you get to learn about their school improvement goals, their specific strategies that they're working on, and then always have an opportunity to highlight students that we are proud to share with you. So with that, we have the principal of the outreach program, AKA TOP. And before I introduce Ms. Sue Whitehall, I also want to recognize her supervisor, Jim Schill, who is the Executive Director of School and Leadership Success, who is a partner in the work, partner in the presentation. You'll hear from him later a little bit more about our school improvement plans. But without further ado, our fierce advocate and leader for our TOP community, Ms. Sue Whitehall.
So thank you, President Margell, Board of Directors, Superintendent Vela, and Ms. Curry. I'm honored to be able to talk about TOP. There we go. All right, thanks. So at TOP, we right now have 87 students. All of the students qualify for services in inclusive education. In fact, we are specifically designed to provide adult transition services for students who we have served throughout their K-12 education. You can see our demographics makeup. This is actually similar to each year in the past. So this is about what it looks like from year to year. And 59% of our students do qualify for free and reduced lunch. You can see that we have several languages that are home languages to our families. There are some not represented here because I believe we have a handful that where there's just one student speaking that language. And 29% of our students qualify for MLE services. They receive those services through some group work, and then our MLE teacher provides interventions, and so sits on every single IEP meeting and is a full part of that team. And then 24% of our staff are actually multilingual. This is very helpful. We can be strategic with this. We connect with families and connect with students through some personal relationships with people that speak the home language of the family. Our staff is also diverse in other ways, gender, age, and we have quite a bit of neurodiversity on our staff as well. And all of these things are very powerful. So 100% of our students have an evidence-based, individualized transition plan. And the reason that I bring this up is we kind of have left the standards-based environment and we are dealing with, we're working towards outcomes that are directly based on a goal that the student and the family have a great deal of say in. So we're directly preparing them for what they want to happen after they're done with school. And so the data looks a little bit different for us than it would for other schools, and as does the school improvement plan. When we opened up the new TOP building and moved from being a program to a school, we were somewhat leveled in how we provided services. And we weren't really happy with that. So we had about 80% of our students who were really involved in community-based learning every day. And then we had a group that weren't quite ready for that. And we worked very hard to figure out how to make it so all of the students were really involved in that community-based learning. And so through inclusion, like gradual and careful and through providing like a tiered system of support for students, we were able to change that. And so now we are fully mixed. We don't separate students out into levels at all, and every single student has a place in the community to receive, to learn the things they need to learn for employment. So we do have post-school outcomes, and those post-school outcomes are really work, paid employment, or college. Those are kind of the two big ones. There's some other things in there. When we opened, we had about 52% of our students who we could say they have paid employment. A few go to college. And that increased every year. And we're very proud of the fact that that increased every year. We worked hard, we made changes, we were strategic. And now you can see from 2021 on, and that's kind of, we haven't collected the data for the last couple of years, but those numbers have stayed high. There's a red line in there, and that's kind of that state average, and we do sit above that state average. One thing to mention is that is a state average for all students who were served in inclusive education, and we're comparing it to this transition program. I would expect that our transition programs in Federal Way and Highline and all of our neighboring region districts would also see results that are similar to ours. The reason we're successful is because we have an excellent staff. They're dedicated, they're good at what they do, and we work together. We also provide systematic support. We are very outcome-based. The other reason I think we're successful is we work with the School to Work team. This is a teaming, it's an agency collaboration, and you can look at the flyer. This team of professionals works directly with us. In fact, we met today. We had a big team meeting. There were 30 of us, and we talked about how to make students more successful. So with this collaboration project, we have been able to make a lot of gains. It is like having an extra team to help us provide those Tier 3 supports to students. So. And then I wanted to make sure we mentioned this. So 5 out of 9 of our teachers were part of our alternative route to teacher certification. So they served as paraeducators and did their teacher training right at top, and now serve as really strong inclusive education teachers in our classroom. We had another 6 paraeducators at top do that same training, and they work in other places in the district. And one of the things that I noticed this year, maybe the first time since I've been in the district for 20 years, is we had those positions filled. So our inclusive education positions were filled. We didn't have openings, or very many anyway. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers are. But I think that the work in human resources by Kim Cushman and the work that the schools are doing has made a big difference. So, our school improvement plan is really based on the strategic plan. All the work we do is preparing students to be global citizens, and I think they're working on independence and life skills and employment skills. You'll see that our goal is directly around expanding the student and family partnerships. Our MTSS, or our multi-tiered system of support, really supports equity, and we've talked about the diverse workplace. So our first goal is that each top student will make significant growth toward independence in employment and life skills. Our parents were concerned that they wanted the students to keep the skills, and not just have those skills during school, but how do they transfer to home? And so this is one of our goals. And we're going to really focus on our research-based strategies, coaching, professional development, and those activities. We want each student to improve social communication skills, and we are specifically, we're always focused on that. It's a major thing that we do, a driving force. But we are really going to focus on social media use. Our students are really involved in social media, and so we're going to do some teaching, and that teaching is for both students and families. And then we've had great results with using our augmented and alternative communication, the AAC devices. So many of our students, in fact, only 2 of our students right now do not have speech and language services. So they're taking their iPads, their phones, their smart box, and they're going out into the community and learning how to use those for communication. So that's a huge focus. And then we're going to diversify and strengthen our family education programs. We have family education night once a month, and they're really good. We work with outside agencies, support agencies, to provide information and help families. We're going to diversify how we deliver it, when we deliver it, and we're going to connect to ongoing education that they can access. Our family liaison is making this possible. It's one of the best things that has happened to TOP in a long time, so it's good. All right, we are going to highlight a student, and an awesome student, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Oliver, and then Oliver's going to come up and talk a little bit. Sound good? Okay, cool. All right. So Oliver is a third-year student, fourth? Yeah, so, okay, third-year student, and has made so much growth. Has developed into an incredible leader, somebody who is just a friend and an advocate for every single person at school, and a real advocate, that makes progress when they go to help or someone. Doing an internship for early childhood education, which is not an easy thing to access. You have to have skills, you have to have maturity, you have to be able to take feedback and give feedback and spend a lot of time with young children. So Oliver is also our student store manager, and in that role, he is able to design work schedules that are fair, that have nothing to do with personal feelings about people, and the students follow direction that Oliver gives. Just a super good leader. So we want to recognize Oliver for that leadership. So Oliver, I want you to come up and share a couple things, if you're willing. Yeah. Okay, cool. Way better at talking than I am, so. All right, so I'm going to put this down where you got it?
Hello, I am Oliver McLaughlin.
All right, so Oliver, tell us what an accomplishment or some accomplishments are that you're the most proud of.
Well, the most accomplishments I've made is gaining new job skills and learning a lot about myself as a person. So that's one thing that I'm most proud of.
I agree. And so, who are you thankful to?
I am thankful for my family who is here right now, for their support to help me adjust to a new school top. And I would also like to thank the staff members at top for helping me get over my doubts and fears, because I was really scared at a new school, but they helped me out. And I'm really thankful for that.
Good. And is there anything that you're excited about for the future?
I'm excited to do new things. I'm excited to get a paid job and make new friends.
All right. Cool. So, anything else you want to say, or are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, good, cool. All right, so you did an excellent job. Thank you so much. And so we'd like to honor Oliver. Really, like an amazing leader, like truthful, cares about people, organized, like what a leader should be. I look up to you, so. All right, we're gonna get a certificate. I think we're supposed to.
Oh, can with the board join?
Yeah.
They usually do one without and then one with. One without.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe I'm.
Count of three. 1, 2, 3. Take a few more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Congratulations. Can you take one with your family as well?
We don't need to
Give them their vote.
Give them the wrong.
Do you guys want us in the background? Should we move?
I'm gonna move out of the way. Let them have it.
Okay.
Just standing over here. You're doing a funny one. Yes.
3. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I don't know if we're done or not. So I guess I'm supposed to ask her questions, sorry.
Yes. I was going to say that will be hard to top, but we do still have, I'm sure, some questions from the board. Director Gregory?
I just wanted to clarify. I know you described what it was, but can you give examples of what an AAC is?
Yes.
The devices, like, give a couple of examples for the community, because I'm sure they haven't
Okay.
seen them.
No, I like that.
And then follow-up to that is, how do we interact with someone who has them?
Oh, I love the question. That's a really good one. So the AAC device is sometimes an iPad, sometimes a phone, and sometimes a different device. And the student usually activates it by pushing buttons, and it speaks for a student who needs that support.
So think Stephen Hawking, when he
Yes,
had
yes.
a device similar to that.
Yes, and so we do have a student who is actually working as a ambassador to the company SmartBox. So if you go to SmartBox online, front page, you will see a beautiful picture of this delightful young man. So and how we interact is we try to do it as naturally as possible. So just because the student is holding a device doesn't mean we have to do it any differently. We might want to slow down. The conversation might be slower. But basically, they can use some pre-programmed sentences and then actually type out words that are new to them. And then we just listen to the device. So it's really the same as speaking with somebody. And our students talk to each other with them now, which has been really exciting. So they go to the student store and they order with their device. We have students who we do shout outs at the end of the day where they give positive feedback. And we have students who are so excited to get to give their positive feedback with those. So, yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify, because oftentimes when we see new technology, we are curious, but we don't know how to talk to people. And so that's why I thank you for giving the explanation. It's a natural conversation.
Yes.
You don't treat them any differently.
Yes.
Don't stare at the device. Look at them.
Yep.
They're really important
You've
things,
got
I
it.
think. So we make it inclusive.
Yeah. And if at any time, you're invited to come and see that in action. It's nice. It's good. So are there other questions?
Yeah, I noticed in the 24-25, there's a slight dip in the job placement.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, with the way that these partnerships are going, do we foresee any impacts that the school district can intervene in or support to help, I guess, increase accessibility to workplace opportunities?
Yeah. I think continuing to support the, just show support for those programs that come from DSHS, because all of these programs are funded by Medicaid and part of DSHS. I think sharing with legislators if we see that those are cut. I mean, those are things that we can do. They're very important. Continuing to support adult transition.
Okay.
We are going to see possibly some dips. Those numbers kind of will follow the jobs outlook. So if we start to see our jobs numbers dip in the area, we're going to experience some of that as well.
Okay. And for some of the external placements through our partners, are the job coaches also included with any of the curriculum through TOP, or do we keep that separate?
No, so we have our own job coaches at TOP. So students are learning how to work, and those coaches are paraeducators by classification, but their job is a little bit different than other paraeducators. They're awesome. They're work really hard at it. And then we also work with the job coaches that they're going to have when they leave us. So we do a handoff.
Oh, so they don't overlap.
So we all work together, and then when they exit and graduate, then they already know the agencies and the people that they're working with. So it's a smooth transition.
Okay.
I hope that answers it.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought there was always an overlap with DVR's participation in the job placement.
No, there is. It's really complicated, but all those agencies, we all work together to try to do the smoothest handoff possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
No, it's just a nice presentation on a great program.
Yeah. Thank you.
Director Cook?
I didn't have any questions. I really love TOP. I think it's one of the shining jewels of our district. So thank you for everything you guys do.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah. And just echoing what Director Cook said, when I talk about many of the things that we're proud about with Kent School District, there are many, but the TOP program is one of them that always comes top to mind. That wasn't meant, but yes, it does. I did have a question. It's my understanding that we were able to increase an extra year this last year. Could you talk about how that affected your program and how that affected our students?
So Yes, the law changed, and students can access it for an additional year. It affected top, it's really crowded, so, but we're working on that. The impact for students is great, because there's a lot of maturity, a lot of growth that happens, so that one more year will increase, will improve outcomes for many students. There's so many students who in the past we've got, oh, I just wish we had another year, or, you know, I wish we had a little bit more time. And so we're super excited about that. So it's going to have a positive impact on outcomes on students and families too. And we have a space solution, so it's all good news.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your presentation tonight, and thank you for the family and for Oliver and coming and speaking to us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Oliver.
Thank you, Dean.
One, because Oliver would have only got 2 years because we helped him out.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, some students they start late, so they would have like very little time. So, yeah, good point, good point. So this is going to make a big difference for Oliver.
Well, great.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
Our next presentation is our school improvement plan, SIPs, and again, I turn it over to Superintendent Bella.
Thank you, President Margell. Excited to, again, just for the board to understand, this is a yearly process where the board accepts school improvement plans, but I'm going to, again, bring up Dr. Rebecca Kim, our Associate Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, to begin the presentation.
Thank you. Hello again. This is an opportunity for us to just share how our schools are shining brightly. It's an overview of the school improvement plans that you will be approving later this evening. I have the pleasure of introducing my colleague Jim Scheel, again, Executive Director of School and Leadership Success, supervising our secondary schools and much more across our system. So with that, Jim is just going to share a short overview for your shared learning.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kim. President Margell, Superintendent Vela, members of the board. I get the honor of representing our office today. So as you know, there are 4 of us that serve as Executive Directors of School and Leadership Success, and I got offered up as tribute tonight to share our annual update on school improvement plans. So a reminder that we operate under School Board Policy 2005, which you updated about 18 months ago. And in that update, you added, the board chose to add science as a specific goal. So this is the second school year. We've always had English language arts goals. We've always had math goals. We've always had an other goal. That other has sort of morphed over time. And this is our second school year where we've added science as a goal specifically to our school improvement plans. Our principals a couple of years ago felt really strongly that we wanted to go to 4 goals instead of 3. Adding science, but wanting to make sure that we kept a climate and culture goal in there, something that you measure by something other than test scores, because we know that kids are more than just the test score numbers that come after their names, and that those school climate and culture are really essential to school improvement and student achievement just as much as test scores are. School improvement plans operate on an annual cycle. But we really, the idea of a cycle is really important, because you don't really, at the end of a year, have a new plan, right? The idea is that we do have a refreshed school improvement plan in August. We go through a mid-year review in the middle of the school year, where our school teams come back together, look at where they are. Actually, our new template from the state actually asks them to specifically predict where they think they'll be in the middle of the year. So it gives them a grounding in the middle of the year to say, where are we? What sort of course corrections do we need to make? Or are we seeing the results that we want to see with the activities that we've planned? And then, of course, at the end of the year, we have a final review. And then that end of the year really leads into the next school year, right? So kind of the end of the year review ends up being very similar to the school improvement plan for the next year, because it's a constant cycle, so that you're not like, this year we're throwing the whole thing out and starting all over, because that's not effective for kids, for teachers, or for anybody to have something new every year. When we think about the process of designing a school improvement plan, and in your agenda for an upcoming item tonight, you have all 44 of them there for your reading pleasure. It starts with stakeholder participation. So teachers, other school staff, parents, obviously administrators. At our secondary schools, we often have students who are involved in helping give input into the school improvement plan, looking at their comprehensive needs assessment, looking at their achievement and where they think they need to go. That comprehensive needs assessment, right, is really a deep dive into what's going on in the school. What's our data telling us? And again, data is not just your iReady scores or your SBA scores. Data is what teachers are seeing in the classroom, what students are telling us in their panorama school climate surveys. What we're getting, some of our schools are really dipping their toes into more street data type conversations. What are we learning from that? What are we getting from parents in our parent feedback surveys or in our staff climate surveys, right? So there's all sorts of data that goes into that, and that process usually starts in the spring because it takes a couple of months. There's a lot going on in schools to look at and think about as you're trying to develop a plan for the following year. Finally, they develop those goals and activities, and then we are here then to present those to you for your acceptance. In our office, we provide professional development to our school teams and our principals, as well as kind of the interim approval of those plans, right? Yep, this is on the right track. Let's keep going with this, or maybe pointing out some things that we think might be worth going back and studying a little bit deeper. So it's really a partnership between our office and the school teams to make sure that we're coming up with plans that are robust, but are also accomplishable, is that a word? Plans that you can actually accomplish, right? We don't want something that's so large and so complex that you can't implement it, you can't teach to it, right? It has to be simple. When we look at our themes, we have some sort of common themes among our 44 schools. The guidelines that we give schools is you have to hit those 4 goals, right? You have to have an ELA goal, you have to have a math goal, you have to have a science goal, you have to have a school climate and culture goal. What those activities look like are really going to vary by school based on where they are. This is not a one-size-fits-all approach, but there are some common themes. You know that we have a focus on multi-tiered systems of support across the district. How do we support students across the spectrum of learning to help them be successful? And so many of our plans have elements of either beginning or improving or refining the multi-tiered system of support that's set up for that particular school. I think probably all of our schools have something around professional learning communities in their school improvement plan. Those are teams of teachers sitting down, often teachers who teach the same grade level or the same subject, who are the experts in what's going on in the classroom, sitting down and talking about their practice, comparing formative assessment data, and coming up with plans for how they're going to improve their instruction with their colleagues. I already talked a little bit about student and family voice. In the elementary, this is really our second year of focusing on building thinking classrooms in mathematics. Kind of launched that last year, and I think every elementary school has a building thinking classrooms goal in their school improvement plan for mathematics. That strategy of getting kids up and out of their desks and working on whiteboards and working on the walls and talking about math and making their learning public as a really effective equity-based teaching approach. I should have changed this one to say standards-based learning. So we are working with our secondary schools in kind of the year 0.5 of a probably 5-year-long journey to reinvigorate standards-based teaching and learning at the secondary level. And we had some training last week on that, and a lot of our secondary schools are really focused on that sort of work. And then many of our schools in their school climate goal have a goal around attendance. Attendance tells us a lot about school climate and school safety and school culture. I know you passed a resolution tonight on school safety, right? If kids feel welcome, if kids feel safe, if kids feel supported, they're more likely to come to school. So oftentimes the data point you can look at that will show that you are improving your school climate and culture is your attendance goal. And I think our family liaisons that we have in every school this year, principals are identifying as a really, I think you heard Ms. Whitehall mention that as a really critical investment. And then the social workers that are available at our elementary schools are really involved in those goals, right? So we try to make sure that everything that's going on is kind of linked back to those school improvement plans. We have some celebrations that we want to recognize. We have 3 schools. I think there were some presentations this week. We have 3 schools that were recognized by AWSP, the Association of Washington School Principals, and the Association of Washington School Leaders as schools on the rise. Kent Laboratory Academy, Panther Lake Elementary, and River Ridge Elementary. The metrics that AWSP uses for selecting these schools are schools that are showing a strengthening of their school climate, that are really engaging students as partners in the educational process, and then looking at systems like MTSS that give every student an opportunity to succeed. So we're really proud of these. I think we had 2 schools last year in the inaugural year of this program, and another 3 this year. This deliberately says 2023 because the state is always a year behind on when they present these awards. So I think last year we shared the 2022 awards with you. This year for 2023, we have 4 schools that were recognized for high growth in math or ELA, and that was Kent Elementary, Daniel, Neely O'Brien, and Ridgewood. And in significant improvement in 9th grade on-track graduation, which in this case was measured by attendance, was Kent Laboratory Academy. So we actually have some banners to put up from last year's group, and we will get banners for this year's group that we can add here to the boardroom on a later date. And that is the conclusion of our annual trip through the school improvement planning process, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
If I can, I want to illustrate something.
Sure.
And I'm always fearful of misstatement because I'm not living there. But each building has their own particular financial reserve to deal with things that are important within that building. And it's real apparent that in those school improvement plans, there's money going into that. That's taking part of the resources the building has to really look at individual success. And it's marked, and you can see exactly how the standards are introduced, applied, and obviously measured, so.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. It's a state requirement that school improvement plans specifically call out how they're using their categorical funding. So if they're using LAP funding or title funding for certain initiatives, those have to be listed in their school improvement plans. And for clarity, we encourage them in that funding box under each goal to list how they're using their basic ed dollars. Sometimes that's how they're using their principal's effective ed or the basic ed dollars that the district's given them, or maybe some grant funds that they've gotten. But yeah, the state really is putting more and more emphasis on, as I'm writing the grant for our school improvement grant that's due the end of this month, I have to make sure that everything we're talking about is linked to school improvement plans. And so putting it in that box makes audits really simple.
I just want to comment, I got to see at a couple of different elementary schools, the building thinking classrooms in mathematics, and I think we wanted to come up with a new name for that and make it shorter. But I do have to say, I was really encouraged because different teachers, how do they pair them up? One pulled ducks. We're going to pull the duck. Okay, your name's on this duck, you're with these people. And then they get up and they move around. So it makes the learning engaging and fun. And then there's many answers to the problem. So she's given them a problem, right? They got these farm animals, and how many animals? You need 11 of them. And pigs are 5, and this is this, and you could have 1 pig and the rest chickens, or you could have 2 pigs and a chicken. I mean, it's like the solution can be different for each group,
Right.
And then they talk about that solution. So everybody got the right answer, but how they got there is also the discovery. So I love seeing it in action, and it was just amazing to see the kids and instantly engaged. Normally when you have math, you're like sitting at your desk and you're really upset, and I felt that it was a really positive experience for them, and I want to solve the math problem.
Yeah, no, and we're with our friends in curriculum instruction and Marcy Brill, the math coordinator, talking about how we expand that initiative into secondary schools as well.
Yeah, it's a really great program.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
My question is actually related to that. When we look at the high growth in the math and ELA, does the data that you guys are pulling, does it I guess, are you guys tracking the metrics of, is this attributed to the curriculum, or is it also, or primarily attributed to the professional development that's going into this? It might be a combination, and if it is, do we see which side is improving the growth rates of math and ELA?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. That's really what we ask our schools to do at the mid-year, right? Is to really, like, during the year, what schools are monitoring is the implementation of the activities that they've chosen, right? So you've made a hypothesis that if I do these things, that students will improve their learning in math, language, arts, science. And then at mid-year, we ask them to take a pause and say, all right, are you seeing growth? Are you seeing that, our goal is once you get to about 50 or 60% implementation, things kind of take off from there. In the end, it's a hypothesis, right? So when you're dealing with human beings, it's difficult you can't really say that, 70% of the achievement is because of the updated curriculum and 30% is because of teaching strategies. It's all of those things. We know that many of our schools, in their school improvement plan, when we have new curriculum, for example, with CKLA at the elementary school a couple of years ago, elementary schools in their plans had an activity was fidelity of implementation of the new curriculum, right? How many people are using it? Are they on track? Are they receiving professional development? So it's difficult to specifically suss out exactly which factor is contributing to it. But it's certainly a combination.
Yeah, to follow up on that, how do we make a determination of whether or not the curriculum is effective for us to continue utilizing it versus making a decision on when it's time to change curriculum?
I think from a data standpoint, what you would look at is if you're seeing, the one thing that would be common across an entire system or across an entire grade level or an elementary level would be a curriculum. So I think if you're seeing growth across a system, and I'm giving you an answer off the top of my head, so don't hold me to it. Probably our research friends and our curriculum instruction friends could probably give a more specific answer. But as a former principal, I would say, if you're seeing significant growth or growth across the system, you can probably attribute that to curriculum because the approaches and the activities at each school are going to be a little different.
Thank you.
I do have a follow-up question. You had said on how we, in June, it informs the next year, so we're not scrapping the program, et cetera. How do we involve new leadership? So like if we have a new principal or an assistant principal or changes happen or mid-year how do we involve the new leadership at that school or even new teachers? Like, is there a plan? Do we have a process for that?
Sure. Having been a new principal in my career a couple of times, frankly, you often inherit the plan of your
Right,
predecessor, right?
exactly.
Because you don't, I don't. If I'm brand new, I don't necessarily know the school.
Right.
So I think most of our new principals will simply adopt the plan of their predecessor. At least for that first year while they get a handle on it. Sometimes you'll come in and have some different ideas or in your analysis. As a new principal, you spend a chunk of your time alone in your office learning the data of your school, right? So you may have some new strategies that you wanna pursue, and you could bring that to your leadership team. The plans aren't due until the end of August.
Oh, okay.
The new plan isn't due until the end of August. So there is a little bit of time there, but I can tell you as a new principal in a couple of buildings, you kind of trust that the person before you had a good plan, and you're probably gonna sit with that plan for at least until mid-year and get your feet under you and get a sense of what's going on before you start. No one's gonna want to come in and toss out an entire plan and start from scratch.
So there is an opportunity for them to course correct. Like
Absolutely.
if there's something wrong or anything, we're not beholden to the plan to the detriment of kids.
They are absolutely a living document. We emphasize that. In fact, I have people, you are approving, you are accepting the plans that were accurate as of when we uploaded them last week. And I can tell you I have schools who are like, hey, I actually am thinking, here's something I want to tweak. Yeah, no, please do that.
Okay.
Right? Don't stick with a plan. If you think a plan needs correcting, please correct it because that's the right thing to do. Yeah.
All right, excellent.
I had a kind of similar question. You'd mentioned that sometimes students are involved with the SIP. Could you expand on that just a little bit more, maybe give an example?
Sure. A lot of schools will have a school improvement team, that might meet once a month. And on that team, they might have, especially at our high schools, might have a student or two on there, specifically on that team who's looking at ongoing data, helping draft the plan, giving feedback to the principal who's in the end sitting down and writing the plan. And then I think the more authentic engagement is, our principals in our schools who are doing, coffee with the principal for kids, right? And just getting that constant feedback from students. I don't know how many kids want to sit and talk about school improvement plans, but, you pull kids at Wednesday at lunch and you buy them pizza and you say, tell me about how you feel about what's going on in math. And kids will, at least middle school kids, have been getting recovering middle school principal, you give kids pizza, they'll tell you anything, right? And I would learn a lot in those sessions, and I know all of our principals do learn a lot from their students when we get them involved. And that's an initiative we have to really, how do we continue to build that student voice and get beyond just that satellite or that map data and really get down to the level of what are kids telling us.
Thank you. Any additional questions, Director Cook?
I don't have any. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shield.
We move on to section 6.01, our superintendent report. Superintendent Vella?
Thank you, President Margell. This evening, I'd like to share some celebrations and some thank yous, and so I may miss a few, so bear with me. The first is that Kent School District has been honored with the 2025 Pacific Northwest Aerospace Alliance Inspire Award. That's PNAA, Aerospace Alliance Award. It's for its Innovative Advanced Manufacturing Leadership Academy, a powerful example of collaboration and career-connected learning. You've heard some of that in some of our city joint meetings that we've talked about. This award recognizes the Career and Technical Education, or CTE, team's commitment to expanding innovative pathways that prepare students for college, careers, and beyond. A special thank you to our Kent Educators of Color Network for leading and hosting our 4th annual Back to School Ice Cream Social with this great weather. It was really nice to be able to do that. It was a joyful and inclusive kickoff for the 2025 school year, and thank you to those that helped out on this campus to set that all up, including parking, tables, and those kinds of things. So really appreciated that support. As part of the 2024 Capital Technology Levy, Mill Creek Middle School is benefiting from the new Prometheum interactive displays in classrooms. These tools are an important part of creating engaging modern learning environments for our students. Thank you to our community for approving the Capital and Technology Levy. Talk a little bit about some visits with our board. As you know, board members have joined me at different times for different schools and that. And last week, though, Director Gregory and Director Song joined me and toured several departments, including nutrition services, distribution and warehouse, and safety services. So I wanted to thank you for joining me. In addition to that, I think, Director Gregory, you also continued to tour the Kent Ridge School where we saw the progress being done for our field renovation back there. Really exciting to see it change almost daily. For sure, every week there's something new. So thank you for that. Also, I wanted to let you know I attended the 45th anniversary of Crestwood Elementary, and specifically thanking Board Member President Margell, Director Clark, and Vice President Cook. Thank you, who also attended the celebration. We got a chance to be able to take a picture with the drone with the full attendance of folks that were there. So we honored the legacy of a school that has served our community since 1980, a year that was marked with major events such as the eruption of Mount St. Helens, the launch of CNN, and the rise of the, yes, Rubik's Cube in the classroom. This legacy includes a student-led campaign that helped designate the green darter dragonfly as Washington's official state insect in 1997. Congratulations to the students, families, staff, and principal for hosting that wonderful event. At the last board meeting, I shared that the September enrollment count was significantly lower than expected. Since then, we have learned that regionally, 4 out of 6 neighboring districts and 13 out of 19 districts in King County are facing similar enrollment challenges following their September enrollment counts, and that's important to note. September enrollment comes in, and then things begin to have, that's how we keep monitoring and looking at moving to the October 1st date. Today, following a preliminary review of the October 1st enrollment date, as I mentioned earlier, and data, we've determined there is a shortfall of approximately 792 students. Last couple of weeks ago, I was in the 902 range. As you know, I'm sure that changes always, and we'll continue to monitor. This decline in enrollment has significant implications, as you probably know, for staffing, budgeting, and resource planning across our district. We're currently assessing the considerable funding gap and evaluating its impact. An update to the budget presentation will be shared at the October 15th board retreat, where we will provide further clarity on the financial outlook for the current school year and beyond. Recently, Governor Bob Ferguson signed an executive order to strengthen protections for immigrant communities in Washington state. The order creates an immigration sub-cabinet to improve data privacy, access to services, and community engagement across the state agencies. As Governor Ferguson stated, Washington is a welcoming community that values immigrants and refugees' contributions. Please know that we remain deeply committed to ensuring every family in Kent School District feels supported, valued, and informed. To explore available resources, visit the Family Support Services page on our website. As a reminder, please mark your calendars for the next chat with the superintendent on Monday, October 27th at 5 p.m. at Centro Rendu in downtown Kent. Excited to partner with Centro Rendu to deepen our relationships with families and ensure that every voice in our community is heard, valued, and reflected in our schools. We'll come to you with some additional dates and locations, or will we also be listening to our very diverse community. In the spring, we will be co-hosting a national convening of the League of Innovative Schools with the Issaquah School District. Districts from across the country will be welcomed to our region to collaborate, share best practices, and engage in forward-thinking conversations about innovation in education. This is a unique opportunity to showcase multilingual education, how we are leveraging technology for accessibility. You heard some of that today in one of our presentations, and using guiding principles for artificial intelligence and our partnerships to support career-connected pathways, as I mentioned. We're looking forward to the convening and will provide updates as more details become available. Our newest board member, Director Gregory, recently completed the Strengthening Tribal Consultation Training. Additionally, our entire board members and I have completed this training, which we did in 2024. It's one that continues. Each board must do this, but very enlightening, as I'm sure Director Gregory and the rest of the board would say. It is a federally mandated requirement for all board members in order to receive Elementary and Secondary Education Act funds. Completion of this training demonstrates a unified commitment to meeting federal standards and supporting equitable practices. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Vella. We now move to our legislative update, and at this time, our all remaining comment cards are to be turned into the blue box on the second table over there. Seeing nobody running up there, I will turn it over we will start with section 7.01 for our legislative update, and then we will move to the newly added agenda item 7.02, WASDA legislative priorities.
No report.
Oh, that makes it easy. So we move to 7.02. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'd move to approve the Kent Board of Directors report back to WASDA on legislative priorities.
Second. There's a motion made and seconded for approving the Kent School District Board of Directors legislative priorities to WASDA.
All right.
We are now open for discussion.
Yeah, I need to explain what happened, all right? We've already held the General Assembly where all 295 school districts went ahead and put what they thought was important. Now, we've already asked this board to state our top 10 priorities. And so you were sent a list of 118, but the cold reality is, if you'll simply approve the previous 10, we can move on, because the reality is, as soon as you start going into the weeds, you start talking about things, and then you have to bump one of yours. So I would ask, Director Gregory, would you concur with sending our top 10?
Yes, I do.
Director Song?
Yes.
I do. Director Cook, would you concur?
Yes.
And
As do I, yes.
there we have it. We have agreement. We'll send forward our top 10. Thank you very much for your cooperation.
Perfect. We move on to our discussion and approval. Is there a motion on the floor?
Move approval of 801 gifts.
Second?
There's been a motion made and seconded for approval of item 8.01, gift donations and memorials acceptance. We're now open for discussion.
If I can, I'd like to give credit to folks that have really been backing up our schools out and their needs. Crestwood Elementary got for their school's needs from Costco $500 in cash, but Costco also sent $500 in merchandise for backpacks for students in their celebration. Cedar Heights Middle School, for purchase of cheer team uniform components, got a gift of $1,000 for Brian and Jesse Martin. Kentwood High School got from Dwayne Horry $4,000 in equipment for various essential needs for Kentwood staff and students. And the outreach program, the TOPS program we just heard about tonight, got from Christine N.A. in memory of Trevon N.A. $7,614 worth of equipment for various medical and health supplies. And we thank these supporters of our schools.
Thank you. A motion's been made and seconded for approval of our gifts, donations, and memorials acceptance. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 The motion passes 5-0. We now move to our consent agenda. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'd move
Sorry,
approval.
can I pull 9.01?
Madam Chair, I'd move approval of 902 through 906.
Second?
A motion's been made and seconded for approval of items 9.02 through 9.06. We are now open for discussion. Seeing as there is none, the motion has been made on the floor for approval of items 9.02 through 9.06. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move to approve item 9.01, uncollectible non-tax revenue.
Second?
A motion's been made and seconded for approval of item 9.01, uncollectible non-tax revenue. We're now open for discussion.
All right. I just wanted to discuss something related to this. I don't know if it's included in this specifically, but I just want to check in on the lunch debt issue that we had spoken about a few meetings ago. Is there any update to be provided as far as what's happening with that?
So let me just be clear. So do you have a question related to uncollectible non-tax revenue?
Would that not be included in uncollected non-tax revenue?
And specifically the uncollected debt, correct?
Yes, the uncollected debt for
Just making it
school
clear
lunches.
specifically what we were, yes, I'd like to call up Mr. Perenquo to help with that question.
So the question is the unpaid meals included in this agenda? The answer is no.
And what's the reason for not including that?
The unpaid meals is under a different regulation. It's under the USDA, and that's why it doesn't fall under this category.
I see. And are we still facing the nearly $1 million that we were before?
I don't have any information at this moment, and so that would be an information that we will provide for an update.
Okay. I guess I just wanted to get on that because we that's quite a bit of money, and it's obviously quite a bit more than this. So I appreciate you coming up and at least talking to it as much as you did.
Thank you.
Seeing no further comments, a motion's been made and seconded for approval of item 9.01, uncollectible non-tax revenue. All those in favor, please raise your right hand, say aye.
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 The motion passes 5-0. We now move on to final communication from the audience, which I didn't see any additional.
There are no further comment cards.
So we move on to section 10.02, our board reports and discussion, and we will start that off with Director Gregory.
I wanted to thank Superintendent Vella and Director Song. We did do a tour last week. I was happy to fill in and do that. I want to say first, thank you for all the departments that participated because it was a in-service day and they were doing training or they were working on projects. And then we came into their space and interrupted some of those things. So I appreciating allowing us to do that. But it was very informative. I do want to say one of the things for me is safety in schools. And it was great to see what our response is, be able to ask those questions of like, what do we do when this happens or there's an emergency? And hearing that we've thought of a lot of things that community members have asked me about. What's our response time? How are we educating our students? How are we working with our families? And all of those kind of questions I was able to get answered very transparently, so I appreciate that from the security team. I also got a chance to go look at the expansion and the updates to Kent Ridge. It is a mud pit. I will tell you that my soccer field is still a mud pit. But I do want to say this. What I'm very excited about that project is this. It seems that it's a lot of money and it's all this work, but the long term is we're going to have revenue growth from that opportunity. We are going to have a place for the community to be able to have programs, sports programs, more inclusive. They will have access to the school. There's a concession stand that already has running water, and there's all of these things that are there as infrastructure so we can attract those sporting events that then will then mean money for us in the future. So by doing that work today, we're making it so we get revenue in the future. So short-term impact of this pain of this mud field, long-term impact is we're going to be able to grow and develop the community, and we'll be able to also benefit from that revenue. So it's exciting projects that you saw.
Thank you, Director Gregory. Director Song?
Yeah, I want to echo the same experience that I had. It was really neat to have an opportunity to tour a lot of the facilities and operations. I think one of the things that was brought up by the superintendent was the importance of our board being able to go through some of these experiences so that when we do make decisions that impact the various departments, we have some more context. So I encourage our team to continuously be involved. I'd love to see more. Even though we did a quick run through, seeing them under different conditions, I think could just help enhance our perception on what actually happens in the background. The other thing I wanted to bring up, I just have some data that I wrote down here, especially because it's Disabilities Awareness Month. We talked about the TOP program. And so just to share some sadder news, sadder is not a word, sad news. The federal school-based mental health data came out, and Washington ranks number 39 out of 50 in terms of our accessibility and services for school-based mental health. And so as we continue to think about levies, bonds, and approving additional resources and supports pertaining to our students' mental health, I hope we just continuously keep that in mind that as a state, we are ranking fairly low. 39 is pretty low, but then the other sad part is that there's other states that are faring far worse than we are. And so hopefully, as we move forward as a board, we can continuously improve and look at how we're supporting the mental health of our students. And that ends my board report.
Great. Thank you very much, Director Song. Director Clark?
I just want to make a observation and going to the Crestwood celebration. The principal did a great job of building an agenda that was entertaining and gave a place for all kinds of participation. But the one thing I really enjoyed was the music director, chorale director at Crestwood had been there many, many, many years. And so part of that celebration, they brought down the Kentwood Chorale Department and had the two groups sing together. And it was just delightful, and they all worked under the same director. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Clark. Vice President Cook.
Yeah, so I also joined them at the Crestwood event. I apologize to the other board directors and Superintendent Bella for me having to take off right away. Once it was over, I had to get my kids over to Girl Scouts. So I was in a hurry right there. Other than that, I think things have been really going well for the beginning of the school year. I'm looking forward to getting on meeting with the principals again this year, as well as trying to meet with some of the staff here at the administrative office. I did want to call attention to one thing that I had noticed today. We had an email between the board directors that ended up getting responded to by Director Clark, which I believe is likely an OPMA violation, and I hope that we will address it soon. But I wanted to just address it right away so that our public is aware of it and that we will address it as soon as possible. So other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Vice President Cook. I am excited to talk about the different pillars of being a board director and some of the things that we have either done recently or moving towards. The superintendent's evaluation has been completed, and we are safe to say that there was not an OPMA violation. Thank you for considering that, Vice President Cook. Responding just that an email was received does not make business action, and so that would not be a OPMA violation. But it was acknowledged by the board. There's a process for doing this, making sure everybody's aware of when the evaluation is, having that, sending that out, and then having the superintendent respond and accepting that. So that process has been completed as one of the pillars of a board director. Another pillar of our board directors is our policy sessions and working on policy. Tonight, I am proud to say that we got 9 out of 10 policies as a group. That is quite impressive. We know that there are many, and some of these haven't been looked at for 2 decades, and so it's good that we go back and just look at them and make sure that they are up to date for the needs of our district, and remove those that need to be removed, restate some of those, and then also just put a gold star next to the ones that look good, and we know that we're good with those. Budget is very much on the mind of all directors. We have been meeting with who is going to be hosting our board retreat with the specific topic of budget. This is more than just a 5-second conversation. And it has to be done differently than how we've done it in the past. This is not a Christmas wish list of all the things we want to do. Unfortunately, we are in a position of tightening budgets, and as many of our families feel this around their households, my heart goes out to many of our federal workers that are working right now without pay or furloughed. But we have to think about as a district. So we will be talking about our priorities as we start making decisions and hard decisions that none of us want to make. And so I know that was on top of my mind today when we were talking about wording of where our funds are coming from and that they are not coming as readily as we wish that they would be. It's not the wording, it's that we're not fully funded. And that's hard. And so as we go into our board retreat and really get ourselves prepared, I look to the rest of the board and starting to think about what are our priorities for how we start looking at the hard decisions that we go forward next with. As kind of budget being the next pillar. Thank you very much to Mr. Pan for hosting me as we got to go and Director Songs. We went and got to visit Neely O'Brien and see the great work that is happening at that school. Been able to visit several different times and just see the progress that there is and just the exciting things that are happening for the students and the families within that community. And also the teachers, I like to point out, and the stability that we're really seeing and the difference that that makes for our students. So I'm excited to see that. Crestwood, also great to see the 45th celebration. And Director Clark, I am going to echo with the choir and seeing from 4th grade up through 12th grade and seeing that progression in music and where our teachers and our students go with that. I've had a great opportunity to be able to see our students in action in some of those activities outside of the classroom in the normal school day. Our football, JV, and varsity teams, specifically with Kent Ridge, but then also our leadership programs as they provide tailgating opportunities for our students beforehand to get excited about the games. Swim team, I will always continue to champion that and look forward to how we can really support our swimmers and the work that they do. And then had a great opportunity of seeing Team 57 for the Chatelaines at Kent Ridge in their fall performance. Always a great time to be able to see the hard work and dedication that goes into that. I thank the board for their work tonight on our policy session. I thank our presenters today, and it is 8:11 and we are adjourned.